Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Holistic Growth Show, where it is my aim to equip students with essential skills that, for some reason, aren't taught in schools. My name is Tim Evertse, and I hope you enjoy the show. It's so good to be back. I'm sure that you've noticed that I haven't been posting a lot of podcasts lately. The last few weeks have been very busy for me, but I'm glad to be back. Right now, it is actually in the midst of load shedding. For those of you who aren't in South Africa, it's basically power cuts. And right now, it's quite dark, but I have my script in front of me, and I am looking forward to giving you valuable information today about goal setting. Obviously, it is 20 days before prelim/mock exams for my school. And so I already did the goal setting process beforehand, but now I'm trying to share this process because I feel like, goal setting is something that not a lot of people know about. They just think SMART goals and they don't really think much more than that. But goal setting is actually quite a very intentional and specific process. So hopefully you find this helpful, what I'm about to share. I know I found it helpful, and I'm going to be using the example of getting a 90 average for exams. That's the example I'm going to use, and so I'll say the steps and then I'll give an example for each of those steps. So let's get into it. So the first thing I would say is that you'd have to have your big goal. So now, obviously my big goal would be, okay, I want to have a 90% average at the end of the year, and that's my big goal. And I want to say that you shouldn't be afraid to make crazy goals. Sometimes to have what some people call a stretch goal is really important because it helps you to push yourself and it helps you to grow as a person. And so getting a 90 average, I know for me, it probably is just about achievable. So usually to get maybe something like an 80 average is probably pretty easy to do. Getting an 85 is a little bit more difficult, and getting a 90 will probably be my absolute limit in terms of what I can put in. But getting a 90 average, like I say, it's a stretch goal, and it will certainly help me to push myself and to grow as a student. So that's my big goal, is to get a 90 average. Then step 2 is to break up that big goal into smaller goals. So what will be those smaller goals? Well, smaller goals will be, okay, I want a big 90 average, which probably means I'm going to need, on average, 90, maybe 85 on every exam. So that includes English, Afrikaans, Xhosa, Maths, Allo, Bio, Physics, and AP Math. Those are the subjects that I take. And so all of those subjects I'll probably need about 85 or 90 across all, and then it'll hopefully get me to my 90 average. So notice how when I broke up my big goal of getting a 90 average into the smaller goals of, okay, getting across the subjects, getting 90 across all subjects, it suddenly becomes a little bit easier because it's more specific. And the more specific I'm making these goals, the easier it is to solve for them. To just say I want a 90 average is, it's quite specific, but it's not as specific as saying I want a 90% for maths, I want a 90% for physics, and I want a 90% for bio. Making it more specific will be easier. And so then breaking it down even further would say, okay, I need a 90% for maths paper 2, I need a 90% for physics paper 1, and I will need a 95% or something like that for Afrikaans paper 2. This, hypothetically, those are the numbers that I will need, and so now I know, okay, if I need 90% for each of those specific papers, then I can even break it down further and further and say, okay, look, for this specific paper, I need to study trigonometry, I need to study organic chemistry, I need to study maybe, I don't know, philosophy, whatever you need to study for each of those smaller goals and smaller papers. And so after you have broken down your big goal into smaller goals, now for the smaller goals, you now have to find the daily habits that help you achieve those goals. So moving on with the 90 average, let's say I want to get my 90 average, and which means I'll need a 90% for maths paper 2, right? And so what are the daily habits to get to that 90 average on maths paper 2? Well, practice is an example of a habit. Just practicing practicing maths on maybe siavula.com, or maybe practicing it on other sorts of maths apps, who knows, getting past papers. Those are also like good ways to practice, and doing homework as well. Basically, yeah, practice, practice, practice. But notice that's a habit that I have to take daily in order to improve my mark, in order to guarantee that 90% in paper 2, which will probably guarantee my 90% at the end of the year. But once again, I know this might sound a little bit uppity, me saying all these goals. This is just hypothetically. I don't know if I'll be able to get it, but you know, if you're setting goals, you shouldn't be afraid to be crazy about setting goals. And so there we go. So once you have your big goal, you've broken it down into your small specific goals, and now you have your daily habits that you have to achieve those goals. Let's say, once again, using the daily habits, maybe it's something like maybe you needed to get a 90 on English paper 2, which will include Life of Pi, Hamlet, and poetry. And so those are your smaller goals. Okay, get a 90 for Hamlet, get a 90 for poetry, get a 90 for Life of Pi. So what are the daily habits to achieve those goals? Well, you can read through Spark Notes every day. You can test yourself on each of those sections. You can focus on questions that you maybe struggle with. Who knows? Those are some daily habits that you can have, or maybe not daily habits, but more frequent habits or smaller actions that you can take to achieve those big goals, that over time, you know, as you do these actions over and over, you eventually hit that big goal of getting a 90 on English paper 2, which will help you get the 90 on everything that you need. So once you have your big goal, you have your smaller goals that have come from your big goal, you have the daily habits that help you achieve those smaller goals. The next thing to do is to have milestones. Now, milestones are important because they help you to see your progress. And sometimes when you are studying, it seems very difficult to see something in terms of, okay, this 90 average is a really big sort of goal to have. And so to break it up helps it to be more manageable, it helps it to be easier. So some milestones could include, okay, maybe I can answer 3 out of 4 questions on trigonometry, or maybe I can understand the complete trigonometry section of Maths Paper 2, and so now I just need to study Euclidean geometry and analytical geometry and stats or something like that. And then the next time you study, you say, okay, fine, now I understand Euclidean and I understand trig, now I need something like, now I just need to focus on analytical and stats. So you notice now I have, out of the 4 topics that I need to study, I have studied one topic, now I've studied 2 topics, and now I just have 2 topics more. And then by tracking those milestones, it helps you to see the progress that you are making, and it's actually seeing the progress that you are making which helps to motivate you. Because notice how instead of studying 4 topics, it's easier to motivate yourself to study 2 topics than it is to study 4 topics. It's just something that I found that works for me, and hopefully it works for you as well. So those are your 4 steps so far. You have your big goal, which is broken up into smaller goals, which is broken up into daily actions. You then make milestones that you want to hit for each of those goals. And now you have what we call a feedback loop. This is step 5, a feedback loop. Now, feedback is really important because it helps you to see where you are going wrong and where you are going right. And obviously, if you're going right in one way, then you keep on doing that action. However, you're going wrong in one way, then just switch direction, and it helps you to achieve your goal eventually. A lot of people don't take feedback. A lot of people just say, okay, look, I'm just going to do this method of studying. They do the exam, and then at the end, after the exam, they see, oh crap, it didn't actually work. When instead, they should have been checking in every week on themselves by testing themselves and saying, okay, look, let me do a practice paper. They look at the practice paper and they say, okay, I'm actually struggling with this and I need to fix it. They should have done it in the weeks leading up to the exams, as opposed to doing the exam and then changing course after the exam. So what does feedback look like? Well, feedback can be getting an opinion of a teacher, getting an opinion of a tutor. It can even be in the form of journaling. So if you journal about your studying and you say, okay, for the past week, study method A, B, and C has worked for me, whereas D, E, and F hasn't worked for me. So you can come up from there, you can come up with alternatives for D, E, and F, and then you can keep on doing A, B, and C. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it's something that helps me when I get to see, okay, look, this has worked for me, this hasn't worked for me. And yeah, before we continue, I'd like to pause for a second. Think about one person who could benefit from this episode. It could be a friend, a family member, a partner, or a peer. Please share this episode with them and encourage them to listen to it. It'll be a huge help to them. And now, back to the show. So that's step 5. So you have your big goal broken up into smaller goals that have then broken up into daily actions. You have your milestones, you have your feedback loop. And then step 6 is not about what can help you, but rather who can help you. And the reason why it's important to include people in your goals is for accountability. I find that accountability is actually one of the greatest motivators in my life, when I can say, okay, maybe I don't feel like doing studying, but then I have someone else who's going to motivate me, someone else who's going to push me to study even when I don't feel like it, and that accountability helps me. And so who can help you? You can think maybe your teachers can help you, maybe your friends can help you, maybe your parents can help you, maybe you have a study group that you work in together. And so just think about who can help you. The next step is to think, this is actually an important step, the next step, which is what will prevent you from reaching that goal. A lot of people, in fact 95% of people that I know, don't think about this step. They set the goal and they make the process. Sometimes they do the feedback before the exams, but they not just before the exams, but before they want to achieve any goal. But they don't ever think about the obstacles that will come up. They don't ever think about, okay, what things will prevent me from achieving my goal. So in my case, getting a 90 average, things that might prevent me from achieving my goal could be just laziness. I know sometimes I just don't want to get out of bed to study, but I need to. Some things could include lack of motivation, maybe I'm tired, maybe the studying is too difficult, who knows. There are so many things that could happen that will prevent me from achieving my goal. And so once I at least know what is going to prevent me from achieving that goal of getting that 90 average, I can then decide, okay, what can I do to counteract these things? So if I'm lazy, maybe I can have accountability, like I say, in the form of a study group where I just show up every day and say, okay, look, for this hour, I'm just going to study. And then after that, I don't have to do anything else. If I'm unmotivated, maybe I can try and make the studying methods easier or more favorable, or something that I enjoy, which also motivates me to study. Maybe if the work is too difficult, then I either get a tutor or find someone who can explain it to me nicely, or maybe I can just break it up into more manageable bites. And also just knowing, okay, maybe I don't know how to do this, but maybe I don't know how to do bit A, but I'm gonna leave bit A and just focus on everything else. And so hopefully that helps. So those so far are pretty much 8 out of the 10 steps. You have your big goal, which is broken up into smaller goals, which is then broken up into daily habits that you need to take, or daily actions that you need to take to achieve that goal. You have milestones to help you track your progress. You have feedback loop to tell you what you are doing right and what you are doing wrong. You have people around you that can help you with accountability. You have awareness of the obstacles that will show up, and you have awareness of how to counteract those obstacles when they arise. And then step 9 would be incentives. And so incentives is something that it's not that I don't agree with it, but it's not really necessary, but it can be helpful. So some incentives can be maybe when you've done a studying session, maybe you have a block of chocolate or something, block of your favorite chocolate. Maybe you get to go and party with the mates or whatever. Maybe you can whatever you like actually can be an incentive, which can also help you to motivate yourself to study and to just get through the goals that you need to get through. And so those are 9 steps so far. And so the last step, I would say, step 10, would be just thinking about what can you do to act right now. So if you think about right now, you're obviously listening to this podcast. as soon as this podcast ends, you got to think, okay, what can I do right now to help me achieve my goal? Because a lot of times people, when they make goals, they say, okay, they make the goal, they make the plan, but then they never act on it, like immediately. Because as soon as you act on it, it helps you to gain momentum, and eventually that momentum will drive you to achieving that goal. So what are some things that you can do to act now? Maybe you can book a slot with a tutor. Maybe you can schedule time to actually start studying. Maybe you can start writing the notes right now. Maybe you can hop on a call with a teacher right now to help you achieve your goal of whatever you need to get for studying. But yeah, so those are the 10 steps that I believe a lot of people don't think about when they're setting goals. They're not very intentional, and they miss all these 10 steps. So step 1, you have your big goal. Step 2, your big goals broken up into smaller goals. Step 3, the smaller goals are broken up into daily habits or daily actions to do to achieve those goals. Step 4, you have your milestones. Step 5, you have your feedback. Step 6, you think about who can help you. Step 7, you think about what will prevent you from achieving those goals. Step 8, you think about how you will counteract the obstacles that might prevent you from achieving those goals. Step 9 is to have possible incentives. And step 10, what can you do to act right now? I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast to do with goal setting. And yeah, this I admit this episode has been quite just out there. It's been very, not rushed, but like very direct and to the point. And yeah, I'm hoping to have more episodes like these where I just sort of go straight into it, because I feel like, I don't like to I wouldn't want to beat around the bush or to create any fluff. But yeah, so if you enjoyed this episode, let me know. You can contact me on all social media platforms. You can contact me on Instagram. You can contact me on Twitter's new the former name for Twitter. The new name is now X. You can contact me there. You can find me on YouTube. You can find my Spotify account, my podcast rather, on Spotify. You can find my newsletter. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this episode, and that I hope that you are able to use these methods for goal setting to improve your life and just achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.